Good evening, Commissioners. Our chair and vice chair unfortunately are not here yet, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Because we don't have our chair and our vice chair, we do need the commissioners to select a temporary chair to serve until our vice chair or our chair arrive. We understand that the vice chair is not going to make it today. Our chair is running late and she may make it, but we're not sure if she will. So at this time, I would like to ask for any nominations or anybody who wishes to run the meeting until we have either the vice chair or the chair present, or until we adjourn the meeting.
I nominate Commissioner Singh.
You need a second. I second. Is that okay?
Do they need to vote? Do they need to vote? If we can please take roll call and say yes or no.
Testing. Okay. Commissioner Kim? Commissioner Guerra? Commissioner Singh?
Yes.
Commissioner Vasquez?
Yes.
Commissioner Cutie?
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Yes.
Chairperson White? And alternate commission member Kemp.
Aye.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Singh.
Thank you. So I call to order the May 22, 24 meeting of the City of West Sacramento, the Commissioner of Economic Development and the Housing Commission. And we start with the land of acknowledgement, and it will be done by Linda West.
We will begin with a land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we live, work, learn, and commune is the original homelands of the indigenous people of West Sacramento, who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We acknowledge and we thank the original inhabitants who have occupied, maintained, and secured this place, and who still exist on this land. We respect and celebrate the many diverse indigenous peoples still connected to this land on which we gather. Thank you.
We will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there anybody going to speak tonight, or any communication we have from the public?
We did not receive any public comments.
Okay, and we move next to the presentation of the Small Business Acceleration Program by Megan.
Testing.
So good evening, Commissioners. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Megan Stiles. I am the Economic Development Manager in the Economic Development Housing Department. I began in this role in November, so this might be the first time that you're seeing me, but I've been with the city for 4 years, and I was with the City Manager's Office previously, so not brand new over here. And so tonight I'm giving a presentation on the Small Business Accelerator Program. And I'm asking that you just listen to the presentation and provide any feedback that you might have for the various grant programs. Because we're not really at the point of detailed information on how the program will actually be implemented, I'm just asking for feedback on the actual programs as opposed to the details about how it'll be implemented. I imagine that I might come back to you at some point with details about that. And so a little bit of background about this. This program is completely funded through Measure N, which was adopted in 2019. And the City Council committed 30% of the Measure N funds to inclusive economic development activities. And then in February of 2023, the City Council strategic planning supported advancement of this program. And then some of you commissioners may have heard in June 2023, Elijah Ortega and Tracy Michael, our director, brought a presentation kind of in concept to the commission, but not with a lot of details. So this presentation is kind of intended to provide details about the formation that's happened since that time. And the Small Business Accelerator Program will be one of the first inclusive economic development initiatives that are coming out of Measure N. So although we've had the funding kind of set aside for a number of years, there haven't actually been any drawdowns from that up until this point. And so this is a map of kind of how we define, based on the Measure N policy, what a disadvantaged area is. So it's anything that rates higher than a 60 on the CalEnviro screen rating. So that's anything basically in the light orange all the way to the red. So anything past the Barge Canal going down into the Southport area, most of that does not qualify as disadvantaged. But based on this program, there is only one out of the 4 programs that specifically calls out only disadvantaged businesses. We have kind of named small business in and of themselves as qualifying for this Measure N funding based on other language that isn't written into the policy. So these are the 4 grant programs that we have identified. The Small Business Frontage Site Improvement and Accessibility Program, Small Business Permit Fee Assistance Program, Small Business Microloan Program, and the Small Business Vandalism Relief Program. And it is not intended that all of these programs get rolled out at once. Each of the grant programs have kind of different varying levels of difficulty as far as implementation goes. Some of them carry a little bit of a higher risk for the city because they're not infrastructure investments. And so if a business fails or leaves, that is money that's just gone from the city. So there is specifically the microloan program would probably be the last of the 4 that would be implemented just because of that risk. And the city needs to take a little bit more care in how we develop the guidelines for that program. So first up is the Frontage Site Improvement and Accessibility Program. And how you qualify is we're defining a small business as less than 15 full-time or equivalent employees and less than $3 million in revenue. And this particular program, you do need to be located in a disadvantaged geographic area or minority-owned or majority women-owned. And this program would provide up to $75,000 for frontage improvements or off-site and accessibility improvements that help to comply with ADA requirements or West Sacramento Building Code. And kind of the idea behind this program is that a lot of times when a business, especially our older businesses who are mostly small businesses, when they come in and they want to do even a minor improvement, because of the age of maybe the building code that they used the last time they did an upgrade to their facility, they end up triggering a lot of ADA requirements or other requirements to get the building up to code. And so this is to kind of help, almost like gap financing, help so they can still make those frontage improvements, or they can do a new hood if it's a restaurant, or other things that might not be a huge cost, but then come with triggering something that might prevent them from being able to do the work. The other thing that we're trying to achieve with this particular program is encouraging people to do work with permits. So if you do work on your site without permits and you don't let the city know, that's not going to trigger other upgrades, right? So this is helping to discourage that and letting small businesses know that there's money available to help them with the other additional costs. With each of these programs, we have set a maximum number of times that you can apply for these programs. So this particular one is once in a 5-year period. And all of these programs do exclude home-based businesses or franchise businesses. The exception to that being if you're a home-based business that is moving into a brick and mortar and you would like to take advantage of this to help make that happen. The next program is the Small Business Permit Fee Assistance Program. Of the 4, this is the one that is probably the most easily implementable just because it's not direct cash or reimbursement to a business. It is distributed in the form of a credit. So when a business comes in and they want to apply for a permit to do work, they would then be granted $10,000 towards the cost of city planning internal costs. So that's staff time, time for a plan review, or other things that would generally be billed on the city side to the applicant. They would have up to $10,000 to bill against, and then they would be responsible for anything outside of that. And we imagine that this program and the one that I previously mentioned would probably go hand in hand. Just assuming that they're in a disadvantaged area, they would then be able to take advantage of both programs. And this one, they would be eligible for funding one time in a one-year period. And I forgot to mention, just to note on the previous, on this program, this does allow city manager to give authority to do a larger dollar amount. So we have some businesses that are significantly aged and have deteriorating exteriors, and we want to make sure that they can also take advantage of this program for improvements that might have a very high dollar amount. So it is going to be on a case-by-case basis. Next is the microloan program. Or I guess, excuse me, I changed this. So I did make this presentation to city staff, the executive team, a couple of weeks ago. And there is some discussion as to whether or not this would be a grant or a loan program. Administering a loan is a lot more difficult. So the intention is most likely going to be that this is a grant program because the dollar amounts are not astronomical. So this is any small business, less than 15 full-time equivalent employees, less than $3 million in annual revenue. And then we're exploring a possible square footage gap for some of these programs as well. And so for this one, the funds are used for not infrastructure. They would be used for operating capital, for payroll, lease, mortgage, inventory. Again, this would kind of be geared towards a business that's either home-based and wants to transition to a brick and mortar. They need to buy a lot of inventory. They need to prepare the space a lot. This would be geared towards them. And then the grant funds do need to generate at least one new full-time job. And kind of as I had mentioned before, we're trying to create as many safety nets as we can because this program does have the most risk as far as distributing funds. And then if the business fails, or leaves town, the money is gone. And so there is a stipulation that the business must remain in or headquartered in West Sacramento for 5 years following distribution of funds. And for this particular grant program, the grantee is eligible for funding only one time per business venture. Good evening, Chris. So we have, next is the Small Business Vandalism Relief Program, and how you qualify is any small business, 15 or less employees, less than $3 million in annual revenue. And this program would provide up to $5,000 per year to any small business that has been a victim of robbery or vandalism. So I'm sure many of you are aware, we have a lot of small businesses that have been vandalized, robbed, had graffiti, other things done to their business, and it's very expensive. So we're trying to help facilitate being able to cover things or deductibles that insurance require to fix those issues. And we also are working with actually Lieutenant Winger specifically on incorporating this into the West Sacramento Safe and Secure camera system. So part of this program would be included in the grant would be purchase of that equipment and installation, and then opting in so that the police department would have better eyes on the property. And they would be eligible for as many times as they needed to apply in one calendar year, up to $5,000. And so additional program aspects to consider. We are looking into the possibility of doing design cost assistance as part of the permit fee assistance program and the frontage and site improvement. Again, because we do want to encourage businesses to use licensed contractors. And especially if they're doing improvements to their frontage, we want to make sure that the improvements that they're doing are coinciding with other plans that we have for streetscapes and other things, and that maybe they're done by the same designer. So we are exploring doing maybe a short list that people could choose from potentially putting more money on the table for those who choose to use a licensed contractor from that list. And then I'm also working with planning on doing either a short training video or some sort of brochure or flow chart that's easily digestible, that small businesses can understand really the review process to get to a building permit that they can move forward with. I know even as an internal city employee, not coming from a planning background, that process is a lot for me to digest. And so I can't even imagine someone who just has no experience in that understanding the process. So we're trying to create something that we can present to them so that they understand the full process. We are also working with the West Sacramento Chamber, which I know you hear from annually, on incorporating them into the business reach out because they are our economic development partner. And potentially including grants for 1 year of chamber membership. We're kind of in the process of figuring out if they can help us implement some of these programs. So there's a number of ways that we can kind of loop them into the process because they're a very important partner to us. And then the proposed timeline to implementation, again, so I'm here, Economic Development and Housing Commission, May of '24. I'm hoping to take this to the City Council for a workshop and their feedback in July. And then I will take it back for approval, hopefully sometime in September. And then we're hoping to start implementing the program, at least one of the grant programs at the beginning of 2025. This is being developed at the same time as our cannabis equity program, which is funded through Measure N as well. And so we do need to ensure that the equity candidate that is selected for the retail cannabis has been fully funded in the way that they're intended to prior to us beginning to pull down funds from Measure N for this program. And so I'm working with planning to make sure that those timelines kind of work with each other. And that is my presentation. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take any feedback from you.
Congratulations on your new job and
Thank
new
you.
challenge.
Thank you.
So now our chair, Chris White, is here, so I'm going to hand over that chair to her. And thanks for taking this opportunity for my running the meeting for the first time. Okay, welcome, Chris.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry for being late. I had a meeting in Oakland today, and y'all know what traffic's like coming back from Oakland.
Yes.
And to add fuel to the fire, there was someone dancing on the freeway.
Oh my God.
Dancing on the freeway. So,
Can't believe you made it here. And I'm happy to go over any slides for you as well. So
I will turn it over to the fellow commissioners to ask questions.
I do have one, thank you for the presentation, very clear. And it's mostly just going back to this slide because I don't understand the CalEnviro screen 4.0 and how it's used to determine disadvantaged areas. Because I'm looking, you mentioned this earlier, basically everything below the bridge canal would not qualify, or the small business owners who have businesses below the bridge canal would not qualify. I did see some pictures, like saw Lenise's Cafe just below, but anyways, how is that determined?
Yeah, so just to clarify, there is only one grant program that is designed specifically for the disadvantaged areas. So only the frontage, site improvement and accessibility grant is the only one that is specifically for disadvantaged areas. The other three are intended for any small business. And how CalEnviro, there's a number of factors that CalEnviro screen uses. They use income level, they use air quality, and that's kind of how it's generally older neighborhoods. Yeah. So the intention is not to prevent any small business that is not in a disadvantaged area from taking advantage of any of the programs, but just based on the language that's in the Measure N kind of cut out for this, we've just specifically called out one of the programs that will only be kind of special to groups that fall into the CalEnviro screen.
That's important to clarify. Maybe I missed something in the presentation, but I assumed because you had this slide at the very beginning, it set the context for who was eligible for the rest of the programs.
Yeah.
And then I made that connection because Measure N focuses on inclusive economic development, so I thought of disadvantaged communities, but that clarifies it.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we're specifically calling this the highest dollar amount grant program out for that part of the city. And then we're kind of using, we're classifying small businesses as falling under that just because they're generally grant programs, loan programs are not as accessible for small businesses as they are for larger businesses. And so we're kind of using that Measure A language to bring this all small businesses into the other grant programs.
And this is more of just a thought for maybe a year from now, as you think about what kind of report you would bring to the commission or city council in the future. I'd be curious to see if those that apply for the grants, if there's a regional difference, like what regions, pockets of the community tend to apply for the front facing, the front side improvement, the ones that support with kind of fixing what's been vandalized. I would be curious to see the trends and the applications.
Yeah, I'm sure I could develop some sort of a map that kind of calls out. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I have a question. It seems like a lot of these programs are focused on like existing businesses. Is there any attempt to go after like new businesses or help them attract new businesses?
So any of these programs, a new business that does not have a brick and mortar could apply for. They would just need to show that they have a lease with a property owner. Of course, they'd be, if you have someone, they could definitely start with me and we could kind of help facilitate that process, which wouldn't be directly under the umbrella of this program, but it would be under the umbrella of my job. And so, yeah, so the intention is that as long as you are either in a brick and mortar or you are moving into a brick and mortar, you can access these programs. Yeah.
I have a question. You know how much money is available to run these programs, or how much money we have under Measure N?
Right now there is $1.5 million, but that's because we haven't really accessed the funds over the last couple of years. And that's also going to fund the cannabis program. So it's about $500,000 a year.
Will we also be working to pair them with statewide agencies as well that could provide them with more funding for small businesses or even micro businesses in the future?
Yeah, that's definitely something I think we'd like to work to put together, a packet of information for them that can help pair them with grant and loan programs that are specifically designed for small businesses. I'm kind of still in the process of weeding all of that out and, finding ones and working with our local banks that, provide access for small businesses as well. So that will definitely be a component of it.
Megan, I'm going to play devil's advocate on one little part of this.
Yeah.
Along South River Road, the zoning has been changed, and any change that they make to the business would be a non-conforming use. How would this program handle that? Or are we going to call out pockets for which this would not be applicable because the zoning has changed?
That's part of the implementation is going to be outlining what types of businesses this is for and what types of businesses maybe this is not geared for, and that has not been designed. I don't know that, or that hasn't been kind of formed yet. As far as zoning, we haven't explored the different types of zoning and if that would make a business ineligible, but that's going to be part of the program parameters that we're going to be exploring.
We have this going on with one of our clients in Monterey County, where what they want to do, and they're so excited about it, is going to have to go to Planning Commission, and I am pretty sure that Monterey County Planning Commission is going to turn that down.
Yeah.
So I would, I just encourage you that to set expectations for what they want to do, and that they are going to need some approvals beyond you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not everybody.
Right. And I do think that that's going to be part of the kind of the education and brochure, pamphlet, what have you, that we're going to be creating is depending on what they want to do. So I guess the other thing that I want to be clear about is that in order to access at least the permit fee, the site improvement, you do need to have plans that are submitted to the planning department. So once the plans are in, that would then trigger whether or not what types of reviews are needed. And so someone can't come and say, I have an idea to do this to my, to my site, to the frontage, to what have you, can I get money for it? It has to be a permit that is in our system in order to be considered eligible for funding.
And the last question I want to ask is about the permitted assistance fee, which I have used before and was awesome the first time around. I see you had capital Bull on the title. Thinking of some of our landlords who are particularly down on Industrial Boulevard and other places, would we allow a landlord to use this to improve a building to attract a tenant?
That is something that we have had discussions about, specifically actually also in the frontage improvement. Trying to figure out the best way to say this. Landlords and property owners that have traditionally made improvements to their site and would like to make additional improvements, we would like to work with them if it is a direct benefit to either the new tenant or to the existing tenant. We don't want it to be an improvement that is then just going to create more value to their property, but is not a direct benefit. So we're not really sure what language we're going to have in the program that either allows or disallows that, but there has to be a direct line of benefit to the tenants or potential tenants for the improvements that are being made.
Excellent.
I'm glad you asked that because if a small business is leasing a space in a building and they're applying for the grant to improve the front, it's the landlord, the small business would benefit, but it's just the landlord's building. And so I second that comment in consideration of language that, because I feel like, and this is probably connected to other state laws that I am not familiar with, but there is a responsibility for the landlord to ensure that the space is presentable for the tenant. And so there has to be, I would think, more of a benefit for the small business owner that brings in new customers, but also doesn't absolve the responsibility of the landlord to do their part.
Absolutely. And there also is kind of an additional layer to your point that when, if there is a small business that applies for the program, they would then have to get the approval of their landlord to make those improvements. And so that's another layer that we kind of have to consider in how involved we get in those conversations and how we encourage landlords to allow their small businesses to kind of guide the improvements that they make. And hopefully those aren't improvements that should just be standard. They should be above and beyond what standard improvements should be made.
And I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but we may want to think about what are the expectations for the landlord and the tenant? Like, I know that there's a lease involved, but if they're applying for this grant, and their lease is over in 6 months, or the landlord decides not to renew their lease, in 6 months, but they benefited from the investment that the city provided to improve the front of the building. That doesn't seem right.
Absolutely.
I'd like to third the comments of Chairwoman White. I believe that for landlords, especially if it's a mixed use development, then it might actually discourage more building in that area or discourage similar development of mixed use types, especially in areas that we want to see more growth. And that's my main concern.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? It's a great program, yes. All right, and we do not have any action item on this. It was just respectfully listen and provide feedback, so we don't need a motion, which I'm sure everybody's thrilled about.
Great. Thank you so much for your feedback.
I would also like to say, if I didn't say this already, I'm so happy to see you in this role, and I can't imagine a better fit.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now we do need a motion. So let's move on to item number 3, consideration of the approval of the minutes for January of our regular meeting. That seems so long ago. Do I have a motion?
Commissioner Kemp, I've motioned to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kemp and a second by Commissioner Singh. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passed. Okay, we are moving on to item number 4, which is the director's report, which I assume is Megan again. Or are we going to hear from Raul this time? Okay.
Good evening, Commissioner White. I'm glad you were able to make it to the meeting.
Despite dancing on the freeway.
Despite all the dancing on the freeway, indeed. Well, thank you again. Unfortunately, Tracy was not able to be with us tonight, but she did ask staff to share some information and updates to the commission. First, we do want to let the commission know that after 20 years of service, Katie Yancey, who was our community investment manager, moved on to the city of Davis to become their economic development director. So, loss for us and, good for Davis, but she has moved on after several years of service with the city. Additionally, as I mentioned at the last meeting, with Newbie's promotion to admin analyst, now we also have a vacant position for the secretary. We are actively recruiting for both positions, and we hope to have them filled by the time the next commission meeting rolls around. Additionally, Tracy wanted staff to share that Club Pheasant and Grand Gateway projects are moving along. After completing an RFP process, both projects, staff received council approval in closed session to select Ramcore Development to redevelop the Club Pheasant property. Although much of the information pertaining to the project is still confidential, we can share that the proposal received includes preserving a significant portion of the original Club Pheasant property and includes additional new buildings to support multiple new high-quality food-related uses. Additionally, staff is currently planning to take a developer selection and exclusive negotiating agreement to council on June 5th for the Grand Gateway property, which is currently proposed to contemplate development of 458 residential units, of which 117 of those would be affordable to households earning 30 to 60% of the area median income, over 30,000 square feet of ground floor retail uses, shared parking, and potentially a hospitality component. That is the Grand Gateway master plan area, which is several lots at the corner of Grand Gateway and West Capitol Avenue, or Grand Street.
Next to the bowling alley, right?
Next to the bowling alley, correct. Yes. And then lastly, it was brought up to our attention that the city council adjusted their December council dates. So there is now a conflict with the commission meeting that is scheduled for December 4th. Because of this, staff is recommending that we cancel that meeting, as moving the meeting later in the month will conflict with other scheduled meetings and the city's holiday closure. So we will keep the commissioners informed, but as of right now, unless something changes, that December 4th meeting will likely be canceled. And that is it for the director's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul. I have 2 questions. The first is, you said the developer for Pheasant Club, is it Ramco or Ramcore?
Ramcore Development.
Okay. It's a shame they have such similar names. Ramcore, C-O-R, R-A-M-C-O-R.
Yes.
And they've done some other developments in town, right?
That is my understanding, but I don't know the specific developments.
Yeah, I can't think of it at the top of my head either. I have another question for you that was not part of your report. At the flower farm next to the fire station by Target, there was a lot of discussion that lot is going to be developed as affordable housing and that the flower farm will need to move.
That is, yes, that is correct.
Okay.
So that's a private lot. The Planning Commission approved that project earlier this year. That is contemplated to be, I believe, over 150 units of affordable housing, 100% affordable housing project. And you're right. My understanding is that both the developer and the property owner were working with the nonprofit entity that runs that farm to find a replacement site.
Oh, excellent.
I'm not sure exactly where that is, but my understanding was that they were working with them to find alternate site.
Oh, good. Rumors were flying at the flower farm, let me tell you.
Yes.
And I realize that we are not the planning commission here, and we are not the transportation commission, but that seems like a lot more cars that are going to be down there on the road.
Correct. I mean, that was one of the, I can tell you that was one of the issues that was brought up during the planning commission meeting where the item was held, was heard. At the end of the day, the planning commission decided to approve the project for many reasons, but you are correct. That's one of the concerns that was brought up.
Oh, I'm thrilled to hear it's going to be affordable, though. I know JP is too.
Much needed.
Yes.
Affordable housing in Southport. Staff did provide some information to the planning commission, just the inequity that we have in terms of affordable housing units in Southport versus north of the canal. It's substantial, so we are happy to see that there is additional affordable housing being contemplated in Southport. But your point well taken about the traffic.
Thank you.
Quick question, Raul. So to address the traffic issue, have they done the traffic study or anticipated traffic increasement because of the 450 units already being in construction right now?
You know, that's, I don't know, Commissioner Singh. I believe that typically there is some type of traffic study that is required as part of the review process. I can tell you 100% whether one was completed or will be completed. Obviously, Planning Commission would probably have that information. We can try to make that available to you, or you can also reach out to the Planning Commission to find out if a study was done or will be conducted.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm done quizzing Raul. Okay, I think we're on to Part B, Commissioner Communications. No communications from anybody? All right. Guys, we may be on a record meeting time. I'm sure I'm glad I got here when I did. All right. With no other information, we need a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Rodriguez, motion to adjourn.
My second.
Say your name.
Linda. Commissioner Vasquez.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.
All right, thank you.